It doesn't say we're live. Okay. All right. Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm your host and moderator, Rob Richardson. With me is Genevieve Leveille. She is a disruptor using technology, specifically blockchain, to really disrupt and to empower communities all across the world, because supply chain is broken, and Genevieve is actually using the power of blockchain and social impact to really fulfill her life mission. I understand she's been in you've been in finance and banking all your life, and now you're in this disruptive technology of blockchain. And I think you're joining us for all the way from Paris, right?
Yes, I actually had the opportunity this week 2 days ago, to be on stage with the mayor of Saint Denis and the mayor of the blackest city in America, South Fulton, Mayor Kobe, and also Frankie Five, which is Frankie Osawe, which is uh, a person in Ghana, which really is looking at ways to create opportunity for the Black diaspora to take part in a better way in the whole aspect of really reducing digital divide, and how do we go back to creating prosperity. So it's very interesting to be at the Olympic, where Station Africa. It's the
Yeah.
first time that all the African countries have come in and set up during the
This is the first
Olympic.
time. This is the first time,
It's the
Javier,
first
that
time,
all the African countries came in. I didn't know that.
yes, and basically on the island, they are allowing people to come in and experience the culture. And it's also giving back, because there are about 23 different communities which live on the Ile of Saint Denis.
Yes.
And Saint Denis, up till now, wasn't considered, I'd say it's the Bronx of Paris.
Okay.
And this is really about how to bring in the opportunity of the Olympics and change the aspect and really provide a mechanism. So it's not just about bringing things from Africa, but it's going back and bringing back to Africa, getting people to understand the foods of Africa. So it's like a smorgasbord of food, all these different things, and you get to really get to know about this, but in the context, because we think of Olympics just as a game, but it's also about bringing culture. And this is the
Absolutely.
first time that you're getting to see all the African culture in one place.
That is interesting. So and the fact is you're in France, and they have a interesting background with your home country, Haiti. So I like to tell people, Javier, you're anybody that's from Haiti is a disruptor by their nature and their blood, right? You guys started disrupting.
Yes.
Uh, Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I got to, so we had the talk, and the next night was a gala at the Saint Denis Mairie, so the mayor's thing, and it was really a cultural view. But guess what? It closed the night with Cool and the Gang.
Oh wow,
The guy,
so
yeah, simply cool. And I got to meet them, and they are actually doing champagne now. Really good champagne. One of the people and the team basically drank a whole bottle and still were fine the next day. So you know it's good champagne.
yeah, you're having a good time, Javier. Like
I'm having.
we need to be there. Like I should be in Paris.
No, we're going to make sure that next year, it's just too little time. We'll be having Cool come in for MidwestCon, because, in all seriousness, it's what my mission is really to make sure that there's equitable redistribution of prosperity
Yeah, we'll talk
from
about that
to
a little
make.
bit,
Yeah.
Javier. So, like, you use blockchain. I believe you even use some AI. What problem are you solving in the world so people can understand what you're doing and how it actually will is and will continue to affect the world?
um, we all have to eat. I'm sorry. The Where we are in creating meat substitutes are not going to be sufficient to really provide for everyone. And so we need to assure that our farmers, our producers have access to market, and access to financial services. But also a bigger problem is the fact that agriculture is 30% of green gas emission. So what I'm doing is using my knowledge of technology and my financial knowledge to say, how can we use blended financing to bring back those opportunities and open the doors? Because trust is usually the problem. I don't trust that things have been done. I don't trust that things are the way that they are. Or as a producer, I don't trust that this person is going to pay me. So using blockchain technology, we can actually lower the bar of entry, believe it or not, by actually getting information that provide the truth at the time of the moment to help make the decision that are necessary to continue.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really don't understand. We do, and I want to break it down a little bit
Mhm.
because in America we're way behind when it comes to blockchain understanding, technology, policy. We're just severely far behind. But most of the developed world still, when I say most of the world, doesn't have a banking system like the United States and like the Western world does. And so we, as Western kind of thinking folks, think that that's the only way to have a financing system. But the truth is, blockchain allows you to be able to do financing because you don't need to have complicated banking systems. That's probably why some of the banking systems don't like it. But it allows you to be able to, in a trusted way, know what one party is receiving on the other end because there's no middleman in between. It's just a technology that is designed to not be able to interrupt that or do anything that's fraudulent because there's no middleman. Like there's not a banking system in between. There's just a technology connecting one point to another. So I think a lot of people really don't know, uh, uh, Genevieve, Genevieve, sorry. I still said it wrong, didn't I? So it's, you just let me go on that. But the point is, a lot of people don't understand that this is a real problem being solved because most of the world can't do banking because it's too expensive, it's too cumbersome, it doesn't work, and banking doesn't want to set up infrastructure there. But blockchain allows us to connect all parties anywhere across the world at any time.
Agreed. But I'm actually going to push the envelope a little more
Okay.
to say that what happens is also if I give you something, there is a financial outcome that needs to happen. We can have it be in the blockchain technology using crypto, but there's no reason also not to agree when something has happened. And this is where the smart contract. So it's this algorithm which says both of us has agreed that it has happened, that there is an exchange that needs to happen. So information, me, you getting something over to me and knowing that it's always been secured, it's always kept to the temperature that needs to be. And that's the fundamental difference in agriculture.
Mm.
So we can think about the fact that there is no banking, but that's actually we we are forgetting that there's actually now mobile money coming in. So a place
Mm.
like Haiti, believe me, believe it or not, it's almost 80% use of mobile money in Haiti using dumb phones. You also have the M-Pesa, and I'll never forget being in the middle of the bushes with the Maasai and buying a shawl that I wanted. So we have to think outside of the box, but beyond the issue of the exchange of money. And I think that's the beauty of what has happened is it's exchange of information that
Mm.
allows for decision to be made to release funding. It's not only funding of me paying you or receiving money from me or paying everybody on the chain, which should be receiving. So one of the big problems in agriculture is you got the guy who's working, there's somebody who comes and buys it from him, sells it up, and it continues to get sold up. And at the end of the value chain, so that's why we need to think about value rather than supply. That item, you might have started with 100 and 60 of them reached the market, but those 60 could be 2,000 times more valuable than they were at the farm gate. What made the value was getting it to the final end. And the problem is they're not participating. We can start with farmer, easy to understand, but it's in everything else. how do you make sure, and this is where the creatives have been great, how do you make sure in the NFT world have been great, how do you make sure that the person who started this is compensated and
Exactly.
encouraged to continue? We have not been, I don't know if everybody is aware, chocolate now, 1 ton of chocolate is $10,000 a ton.
How? Oh wait, say that, Genevieve again. Say that again. How much?
1 ton is $10,000 a
Wow.
ton. I doubt that the smallholder farmer in Kenya, sorry, not in Kenya, in Ivory Coast, in Senegal, in Ghana, is getting more than 100.
Mm.
Maybe the person who bought it from him is getting 1,000. In places like Ghana, they put something that says that they need to get at least 1,600. I'm not sure if it's at the farmer, but the supplier, the aggregator, at least says the 1,600. We're not sure what is actually being paid to the farmer. And this is where the blockchain comes
Got it.
in that he would be able to say, I received that. I gave you, now I receive. But here's where we push the envelope. When that's 1,600 and it goes to market and it's 15,000, why is it that everybody else is making money and he's not? So we need to be, with the power of blockchain, we know who has participated and we
Yes.
can redistribute and create much more equitable. Because at the end of the day, if this person wasn't under the sun nurturing that cocoa, we'd have no chocolate.
I agree. I'm trying to just Genevieve. I'm trying to figure out how that works, because you said a couple things there. One, I know how a smart contract works, and just for those who don't know, you're able to tell the chain of custody when something starts and when it ends, how much was made by each party, and theoretically, right, you can get each time that person can get some type of percentage paid back to them for when they started. I understand that part. You also talked about like also knowing the information of when it's fresh and when it's not. Correct? You said that correct as part of the.
Yeah,
How would that work in a smart contract? Like how are you going about doing that? It seems like you'd have to have almost AI or something else involved at that point.
IoT,
Yes.
IoT, and AI. So this is why I'm saying you have the blockchain, and now you're starting to move it to where it's much more complex. And this is the beauty of the complexity, and it's bringing all these different parts of technology. And let me answer the question first also. The farmer doesn't have to be in the blockchain where he's pushing numbers in. He needs to be an identity in the blockchain. We need to recognize what he brings in as a product, and we need to track what is belongs to him
Got
so
it.
that
So
he
it's
can
almost like he creates his own digital identity online. You track that within the blockchain, and you can track the information on what he's doing, just like you can track,
but
what your email or whatever was doing in some ways. You're able to track a digital identity that's on the ledger.
but here what happened is that we cannot expect the farmer to be doing the transportation, the meeting the requirements of packing, meeting the phytosanitary. We can say, let's say if it's fresh fruit, mangoes, that the mangoes have to be at a certain temperature and the truck has to be at that temperature and the driver has to get it in that many hours to where it belongs. So using IoT, using sensors, you can follow that path and make decision at the receiving. Should we be continuing this further down the value chain, or is this no longer fit for the market where we were looking at? Or is it no longer fit for human consumption? Because I'm not sure if people realize food-borne illness is becoming a big problem. Food fraud is a huge issue. I was just reading today something about olive oil in the EU, and they have gone over 2,000% increase in the last 3 years in fraud in that. So how do you combat fraud? Because fraud doesn't only hurt those who receive the fraudulent amount, but it also hurt those who are doing the right thing by denying them the economics that they deserve. So
Yes.
it's really getting, so one of the things about blockchain also is it gets everybody to work together. So it's a collective in a way, but a digital collective where if I'm, let's say, the person who's getting it from you and I have to transport it, my delivering my task properly means I get paid. It also assures less waste and that everyone is accountable. We define clearly what they do. So, but there's also a mind shift which has to come in. I'm no longer buying from you, I'm providing your service. So think of it the Uber and Airbnb model. Who would have thought that we would be going into people's car and letting a stranger drive us or going to somebody's house and expecting to have certain things? So it's a service that is being provided and you get compensated. If the service is much, like let's say, it's much more dangerous, so that's what costs more. And we start
Yes.
being able to allocate properly
But of course,
the
there's an interest in there's some interest in the world that don't want that to happen. I imagine there are some people that see uh, equality as an attack on what they do, especially when you've been able to get away with exploitation. So how are you going about solving this in terms of the resistors to it, and
uh,
how do you get them to how do you move that forward, knowing there has to be some inherent people that see this as a disruption, if you will, pun
it
intended, to
is
their business model.
well, if hate, so bring it back to my country. If we had just said, we can't get our independence because these people are going to push it, we've been punished, excuse it, by France for audacity. It is about having the audacity of trying, but it's also another thing that there is that that individual, you can either you need to use a community or you need to make sure what's in it for them and
Yes.
we can create what's in it from them. So in the Haiti model that we did, there was no one who lost. Everybody gained because the more you can get to market, the more money you make.
Yep.
So when you push it down, so you have to sort of have those conversations. And where I've actually brought it in more is really looking at the climate issue. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger, far from it, but it is a problem that exists. And when we say that the bigger problem in that is in agriculture, and we look at what we call the greater south versus the greater north, so Africa, Latin America is greater south, the US and Europe are greater north, they're producing all the pollution and they need those carbon credits to be able to mitigate. So, how do we create the mechanism so a company which is buying food knowing what the mouths what so there are things around that, how what your control as and what you can control usually is your supplier. But using blockchain technology, using AI, I can now give them an exact picture of what has happened. If there's been a deviation, the sensor will let them know. And now when they have the requirement of reporting that footprint, they have data so they don't have to guess. And
Yeah.
now it becomes more of a symbiotic. So you've got to be looking as you put technology in, how does it affect everyone and what is there to gain? And then the detractors start going away. Yes, you're right. Opacity does allow for bigger gain. I know that, when we look, lately I've been looking at what we call the commodities market, which is the food buying market. It's a wild, wild west. And obviously, something like blockchain is going to look to regulate it. So that's why the conversation cannot just be with the farmer, cannot just be with the government. It needs to be with everybody. And
Yes.
it's about listening what they need, what they want, and then trying little by little with that change. It's a story, it is a journey.
Yeah.
So, my point of view is you can't just drop technology.
No, you can't. Yeah. I always like to say this, Genevieve. It's people, process, policy, then technology, right? So at our conference,
Mhm.
we focus a lot on policy, empowering people around this technology, but a lot of people start with the technology first. And as you said, it has to follow those things first, because good policy, if your policy is about reducing you know, reducing gas emissions, making sure we're more sustainable. And if you incentivize that, your technology and what you're doing is a natural result of that. If you're talking about how do we use this innovative technology in a way that doesn't just help a few but helps a lot, your technology is key to that. Because one of the other biggest problems with AI, if we just want to get on that for a minute, is that it's going to cost a lot in terms of resources and power. It's going to, so there has to be ways we have to really think about it. I look at blockchain as AI's accountable cousin, right?
No, I look at blockchain as the thing that will allow AI not to go crazy on you.
There you go. There you go. That's even better.
Hallucination, because hallucination of AI is very real. I tell the AI, this is what you're looking at. You can tell me what is the tea leaf telling you, and tell me what you think and what happens. And as we get more history, what needs to change? What are the, letting a farmer know that your neighbor or your very far neighbor 3,000 miles away has been doing this. This is something you may want to do to increase your yield and to make sure you have the right thing. So we have to think of, so one of the things that I've actually taken a step back is say we have to involve community. We have to have the community. So we know the technologies that exist there. And as you said yourself, a lot of people, even in the US, are not aware completely of the technology. Do they need to know the technology? Or do they need to know what the technology
They
can
just
do
need to
for
know what
them?
it does. That's all they need to know. People don't know
But-
how electricity works, if we're honest. Most people don't. They just know it
Or
works.
email.
Right?
Or email.
That's right. That's right. That's what I tell people. But like, there's been a lot of fear mongering around, we know, blockchain. So my kind of final question for you, first of all, thank you for joining us for Paris. And we're so excited to have you for MidwestCon. And as we talk about social impact and the intersection of AI and blockchain, I think I have one final question. What does the world look like when your company has moved to scalability and market?
I don't know that I hold the technology anymore. And this is where my mindset has been changing to really say this is advocacy in ways. And it's not advocacy only on the technology, but policies, getting government and also financial institution to understand clarity. So I think my company is moving more into, because I think the last few years we've been thinking that technology has to be built and everybody's going to use the same technology. The base is going to be, but you always have the 80-20 rule. So how do I build the 80 and then have that 20 that I can allow you to adjust? Without allowing for adjustment, you're never going to get people to accept it. So this is where I see it's where we become a mechanism for people to be able to bring in what's necessary, and also in ways that there's a clear understanding of what you can do with technology, not just blockchain. Blockchain is the book that you're writing the truth in. AI is the one that helps you make the decision based on the truth.
All right. Well, that's great. Genevieve Leveille, I appreciate having you on. And I know I'm going to get your name right, and I apologize for it. I'm working on my French or my American accent. I do apologize. It will be perfected by MidwestCon. But I do want to say we appreciate you, and we hope you enjoy the games out in Paris. And we will see you in a few weeks at MidwestCon. If you don't follow us, please follow MidwestCon.live.
Truly.
And also follow Disruption Now, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.